Right, hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Mr. Menopause Show. Today, I have another special guest coming on to share her menopause story. I have Wendy Connors, and she's sharing her experience with HRT, and she's going to give a little knowledge about what helped her get through her menopause symptoms. Hi, Wendy. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. A pleasure.
Yes, thank you so much for coming on. Can you please just share with me when did your actual menopause journey begin?
I started going through menopause in my late 40s, and the first thing I noticed were hot flashes. So that was the first indicator for me. And yeah, and then night sweats. Those
And
were,
at that point, did you know that it was menopause?
yes, because I had heard it from prior, from other people in the past, like, oh, the hot flashes. And I really didn't know what it was about or if it was ever going to affect me. And then when I started to get them, I'm like, oh, this is what it is. So yeah. Yep.
Gotcha. And
Yep.
so, did you have any other symptoms that affected your life besides that?
The night sweats were just about the worst. And then I worked out. I was very fit. I was a personal trainer back in the day, training women, and I was fit myself. But then I started to feel sluggish and I started putting on a little bit of weight. And then they discovered that I ended up having a hypothyroid at in my late 40s, like 47, 48. So I don't know if that was part of my menopausal journey as well, but or maybe I had it all but it just got diagnosed at that point. But menopause and those symptoms are very similar. And so I think the doctors were confused. So when they optimized my thyroid, I felt a little bit better, but the night sweats and the hot flashes didn't subside at all.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
felt a little pathetic, but
I
yeah.
had a client that she had the same exact issue with the thyroid. She actually came to me because she didn't want to try the HRT. She wanted to try something else first. And when I looked at her symptoms, I'm like, well, your symptoms don't really look like because she was actually being treated for hyperthyroid. And I said, they don't look like they're hyperthyroid, but you do have a high number of symptoms in your adrenals. So we focused on that. She started feeling better, but she was having hot flashes every 30 minutes. Like it was like clockwork. And then I said, you know what? You need to have your thyroid checked again because, first of all, your symptoms aren't there. And sure enough, she actually had hypothyroidism, and that was causing the hot flashes. And once they regulated her medication, they went away. So, yeah, it is very similar. And also, sometimes just the loss of estrogen can trigger, like if you have another area in your body that's out of balance, it'll just make that area more out of balance. Yeah, so it
Right.
makes sense.
So about like weight training. So I trained a lot, and a lot of times your muscles repair at night. So I just thought, oh, when it first started the night sweats, I thought, okay, my muscles are repairing. We're in repair mode. This is a good thing. No big
Mhm.
deal. But then they just got worse and worse. Like I'm talking like I ran a marathon. Like I sweat through every. Like I had to get up and change like 3 times a night. That's how bad. And
Oh,
then I
wow.
was dehydrated
Yeah.
from just like sweating. Oh, it was crazy. So um that was my first experience with the menopause. It lasted for about 10 years, mind you.
Mhm.
The
Yeah.
long it's a long journey with that. So yeah.
Yeah. And that's another thing. A lot of women don't realize that it actually can last 4 to 12 years for some women. And they don't realize that that's the perimenopause phase. They only hear the word menopause, but there's
Right.
like three phases. So yeah, and most of the symptoms happen during that phase. So how did your symptoms affect like your relationships or your work, or did they have an effect on that?
Well, yeah, it did affect work because when you're up all night sweating and then have to get up in the morning to go to a job where you have to focus and use your brain, it was difficult because I was exhausted, when I got to work. But I, plugged up, and I made an effort, and I was good. I never had to leave work, let's say, because I couldn't function, but it did interfere because of exhaustion. And just
Mhm.
like I had a woman that was a boss, and we ended up being very good friends. So when I did get a hot flash, like at the office, I just stepped right outside
Mhm.
to like breathe and just like go through it. She was really good about that. She was younger than I, and so she totally understood. But it was a little bit crazy. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the areas I work in is menopause policy for workplaces. And so that's one of the things that we talk about is that women need to be able to have a safe space at work so that they, if they need to leave, to let them be closer to the bathroom or help them to, change the temperature if they need to. So yeah, so that's good that you had a boss that was aware because, right now a lot of people do not.
Right. And then my district manager, he wasn't in the office all the time because he traveled, but anything for me, he was all about, he had a house full of kids that were grown and a wife, and he knew all about it. So he
Yeah,
was, you do what you do. They were so kind. And this
yeah,
is before it was even, really talked about much,
yeah,
time
yeah.
ago. Yeah.
Yeah, you were lucky in that because I've spoken with a lot of ladies that have actually quit their jobs or even were let go because they just couldn't keep up with it.
Right. It's great. Well, but on the flip side, I did a lot for the company, and so they didn't want to lose me. So
Right.
we had a great relationship. So it was like it
Yeah,
was a,
yeah,
but yeah, I was lucky for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. And how about relationships? Did it have any effect on your relationship?
Yeah, because I kind of like, I guess I lost my sex drive. That has a lot, things happen, and it's just not fun. And if I can say, like, just vaginal dryness and things like that, and just things that happen, you're like, oh, what's happening? It wasn't comfort zone any longer.
Yeah.
And you're overwork, you're tired from working, you're tired from the week and just life, and that's the last thing on your mind, where it used
Hmm.
to be on your mind in your younger years.
Yeah. Yeah. And and then too, there's the issue with the husband's not understanding. I spoke with the husband of someone going through menopause, and he was like, he had no clue. And he's like, I just thought she wasn't attracted to me anymore, and that or maybe she was stepping out. And then he's like, it wasn't until later that I realized that it was the symptoms. And not only that, it's painful for women. So who wants that, during that time?
And there weren't a lot of things on the market to help you, mind you, back then. It's like, but today's world, we're lucky, there's so many things for us to help with that.
Mhm.
But I do a lot of like TikTok videos, and a lot of women come to me and say it's like saved my marriage by realizing they were in menopause and how to treat their symptoms. And
Mhm.
they said they were living like roommates for so long, and they're empty nesters, the kids are gone, and but now they're in love all over again. It's wonderful. I'd love to hear stories like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So
agree.
there's hope for us.
Yes,
So
absolutely. Yeah.
Mhm.
And you say you keep referring to back then there wasn't a lot of discussion about it. So how long ago was this that you went through those?
So I'm 63 now, and I started going through perimenopause probably like 49ish, 50.
Okay.
And then I got diagnosed with cancer at 52.
Okay.
So I was pushed through menopause because I had to go through chemotherapy and radiation. And
Mhm.
at that point, they were like, "Oh, we won't need to address your hormones because you're already in menopause. So we'll just let it be and let it run its course and go on." For me, it was just I just wanted to focus on living, so I didn't really even
Yeah.
think about menopause at that point. Didn't even care. I just wanted to stay alive. So
Right.
I took nothing for it and just tried to heal.
Yeah.
It was a long journey. And so for after cancer treatment, and after I beat cancer and everything else, then I started my journey on, okay, now how do I feel better? Because then the symptoms were even worse because I
Yeah.
had finished through menopause.
Hmm.
And it was just, and my oncologist, my primary care, my endocrine, everyone just kind of rolled their eyes, like they couldn't do anything for me. There was nothing they could offer me other than prescription drugs to help me sleep, or with anxiety, or are you depressed? And I didn't want any of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or-
Yeah. Yeah. It's unfortunate that the medical community is not equipped to handle menopause
yeah,
and menopause symptoms that because like you said a lot of women get misdiagnosed with
right,
depression,
right.
early onset of dementia. I heard a woman and it's just she had brain fog, but because the doctor didn't realize, he's like, we think you might have dementia. And it's like all these things that women are going through, and it's sad because it's like here in America you would think that we would have better
Oh, you're going out. You hear me? Oh,
You were back?
yeah,
Okay. Yeah, so I get most of my education from the UK because they're really big on that there. They're really big on menopause. And that's how I got actually into menopause in the workplace because they're huge on that and making sure that policies are in place. And actually that's helping people learn more about it as well because the employers have to learn about it, the
right.
coworkers have to learn about it. So it just gets more information out there.
And I feel like the doctors today have to learn about it because honestly, they went to school to become physicians, but they didn't set their like one part of like one side just for say for hormones because they were just going to be a primary care physician. So they touch little bits and pieces of it, but really have no idea in today's world what is available, how to help women,
Yeah.
even women physicians as well. Like,
Yeah.
so they need to like, they're only taught what they have the, in the book in front of them, and then they learn from
Right.
the book, and then they don't broaden their horizons now. But I feel like they are now because it's becoming such a prevalent thing now, and it's such a positive experience for most women. We have a couple that, things that happen, but so they need to learn it so they can help,
Yeah. Yeah.
and not just want to write prescription drugs all the time. Like I feel like that exasperates the problem and all the symptoms,
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
because you feel it's not that you are depressed, but you feel like lost
Yeah.
and you're
Hopeless.
hopeless. And so all right, I'll try it. Maybe it will just calm me a bit. But then when you realize you're worse off and you want to come off, then you're afraid to come off of the medicine because you think, oh, maybe I really need it.
Hmm.
It's just a crazy place. And it
Yeah.
was hard to talk to anybody about it, especially my husband or my daughter, or like they couldn't understand what I was going through.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a
And like husbands, kids, they all need to be a part of the conversation. I always say that menopause is more than a woman's health issue, it's a life issue because it
yeah,
affects mentally, physically, emotionally. So it's going to affect relationships,
yeah,
work,
every,
everything. So
every
everyone needs to be involved or at least know. And the unfortunate thing about the doctors is that the OBGYNs are the ones who get the little bit of menopause education.
right,
But if they want more, they have to do a special elective. And for them, they're like, I've paid all this money for college already, so you would think that there would be a specific, just like they have for, the kids, for OBGYNs, you would think they would also have a thing that just specializes in menopause. And yeah, it's just unfortunate that it's not the case that they have to do extra because by that time they don't want to, because they've already gone through all those years of school.
right. They're just strung out anyways with their schedules and things like that. That's the last thing on their list. But I feel like they're coming to grips with it. I feel like they want to learn it because it's only going to help their practices,
Yeah.
because so many are turning away because they're so disappointed with the care that they're getting, being
Yeah.
observed and misdiagnosed, and it's just got to stop. And so that's a lot what I put out there. Just hope, 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 you
Yes,
know.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. Love that. So what were some things after and congratulations for getting through your cancer treatment and surviving cancer. Unfortunately, I lost my mom to cancer at 52, and it was at the end of her, like she was going through all the horrible menopause stuff when it was happening. But when you got through that and you were again like trying to heal yourself and feel better, what were some of the things that you tried?
So first I went off of all prescription drugs, and I just tried to go back to training and being physically fit and cleaning up my diet, cleaning up things I used on my body. Um, Anything I could do. Like, it was like, don't panic, it's organic. I just wanted to clean everything and try and see if that would help. And it did relieve some, but not like the night sweats and things like that.
Mhm.
It made me feel better in the brain space so I could get through the day. The endorphins were running, but not a whole lot. It's been like for 10 years, I've been in search of something to help me get through it, because it took that amount of time to go through it. I started doing hormone replacement therapy, it's my year anniversary now this month in April. And I still had night sweats a year ago, April.
Okay. Wow.
I was still in menopause. It
Right.
wasn't done yet. And
Hmm.
that's 10 years
Hmm.
or more.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, time,
That
you know,
is.
a long time. And I don't know if the cancer treatment slowed it down, and then that's why I was still in it, because you would think I'd be over it by then after 52 to 63, right?
Yeah.
Um, Started, a couple of years prior to the cancer diagnosis. So yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, everything's connected in the body. So I'm sure it most likely could have,
Yeah.
elongated the time span
Yeah.
on that. Now tell me this. So in trying to, in taking the HRT, because there's a whole lot of information out there, and that the information that there was information at one time, we're actually learning now that it's not the case, that they said that women who went through cancer should not do HRT. So what was it that gave you the courage to try it anyway?
So my cancer was HR triple negative breast cancer.
Okay.
So for me, it was okay because I didn't have it. It wasn't HR positive, so I didn't have estrogen receptors, I guess you'd want to say. So I was a candidate for testosterone.
Okay.
So didn't, and I opted out for estrogen because I've tried estrogen, like a vaginal type of cream, and the day I tried it, my body like rejected it. So for some reason didn't like it. So I stopped using it. So I thought, okay, well, I'm not going to do estrogen pellets either then. And I can't do progesterone because I had all of my parts removed. I had a total hysterectomy and things like that. So I just opted for testosterone, and my testosterone was so low. I was 9 on the scale when I had my labs done, and
Wow.
so that was a lot of my problem. And then we optimized my hormone and switched over to a desiccated thyroid, which I needed. A lot of people don't know about it, but the T4 and the T3 and the conversion and all that. And I had no T3, so all the years I was taking Synthroid, which is T4,
Mhm.
but I needed help with the T3. So I had a lot of symptoms still from my thyroid.
All right.
So that, and I started on a testosterone pellet, and I'm not kidding. The next night, I didn't have a night sweat. That's how quick. I just needed my levels just a teeny bit elevated, the night
Mhm.
sweat away. And then um, that weekend, I went to my daughter's house, and I was beyond flying. And I said, "Oh my gosh, I just want to get outside and do cartwheels with the kids." She said, "Oh, go."
Uh-huh. Yeah, and I'm glad that you shared that you did testosterone, because again, a lot of people, when they think of hormone replacement for women, they only
Right.
think of the estrogen and the progesterone, and then there's also information out there about the fact that for many women, actually, the testosterone levels are the levels that actually stay elevated for up to 12, 15 years beyond menopause. But for you, it was the opposite. Your testosterone dropped.
Totally, totally in the dumper. And honestly, like, so the reason what sold me was on the testosterone. It was supposed to give me better sleep, to boost my energy, my memory, my concentration. It was a turn for cancer. So I'm like, okay, I'm in.
Mhm.
Then if it's going to help me with all those things down the road, heart disease, dementia, all those other things that happen, down the road. So I was like, you know what? I'll give it a try. If it doesn't work, then I just won't do it anymore. But here we are a year later, and I'm a happy little girl because
Yeah,
I've changed, my life. So,
yeah,
so
very
yeah,
nice.
I feel so lucky. I feel when I said to my daughter, because she found it, and I was like, I used the word serendipitous moment in my life, that
Mhm.
she came to me and said, "Mom, you seem like you have, symptoms of, low hormone levels. Why don't you think about BHRT?" And I'm like, what the heck is that? Like, I had no idea. And I'm like, okay, I guess, I called and I made an appointment with the provider, and I loved him right away. And he understood the path I wanted to take. And I'm like, okay, go for it. So
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, the lady I spoke to recently about her journey, we were saying the same thing. It's about when you find that person that can relate to you and actually listens to you as well,
Yeah,
because that's really important. That's what's going to make the right combination, I feel, for you to feel more comfortable in making a better choice, because you're going to be more educated. You know that person is more educated, and it just makes the whole difference in the world.
absolutely. Because then that's what I always say. You have to have that connection with your provider. And if you don't have the connection, go to the next, because it's
Mhm.
so important, because now you're going to be with this provider, whoever it may be, for a long term now. And so you
Mhm.
want to be on the same page. You know, he knew about my lifestyle. He knew what I was looking for. And he was like my age too. And so he really understood where I was coming from. And when I went back, so he took my labs. And when I went back for my next visit, he looked at me and he shook his head. And I'm like, what? And he said, no wonder you feel the way you do. Your testosterone is at a 9.
Right.
Oh my gosh, what should it be?
Yeah.
And a lot higher.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I was,
yeah. Do you know which scale that was that he was using?
it was the scale was from the regular labs, but the BioT, well, I do a brand of, pellets. Their
Mhm.
scale is 150 to 250 for women.
Okay.
So in their optimal range, I was way out of it being a number 9 at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the lab from the hospital, wherever the lab from, yeah, the hospital, I looked like I was where I was supposed to be,
Yeah.
right? So
Mhm.
but they look at things totally differently. So I'm glad they do, because I just needed a little kick. So
Yeah, and there's different numbers too. Like for yours, so for men, we look at the nanograms. Like, and for me, mine what is supposed to be between 300 and 1200. Mine was 170. So I was way down. So I too am on HRT for testosterone. So and a lot of people don't realize that men go through a drop in the sex hormone, which is andropause, which I hate that they call it male menopause, but it's because it's not the same thing, but it just happens around the same time and is reproductive. But yeah, it's like so, and like you, I was like, let's try it, see what happens. I tried the gel, it didn't work. So then I'm like, okay, what's the next option? They're like, let's try the injection. And like you, within 2 days, I didn't even have to change I didn't change how I exercised, didn't change how I ate, and I lost because I had gained 40 pounds at that point. And I was like, how I work in health and fitness, how is this possible? They told me I was pre-diabetic, all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, it just makes no sense. Literally, like within weeks, like all that stuff cleared up. It's like, yeah, it's crazy. And prior to that, I was very anti medication, anything like that. But at that point, my numbers were so low. If I didn't do that, the food and exercise was not going to get it back up there. So,
happened to me. The sluggish, put on a little, was puffy and a little bit bloated and gaining weight. And I'm like, I don't know how this is happening,
mhm.
but it's amazing that you did it too. And then right away, it just like changed your life. Like
Yeah,
which is so depleted in your testosterone, like I was. And I just feel so thankful. Like
yeah,
where would we be today without it, is what I say. Like I
yeah.
just, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then too, but there are some people that, like you said, like at the beginning, there's some things that you didn't jive well with you. And some people are able to get relief from changing their diets and stuff like that, but it all depends on where your numbers are,
Right.
and that's where people get lost. They don't know which numbers to check, or they don't know even the doctors don't know what to check, So yeah, so that's where things get lost, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah. Everyone's learning today. The world is so different today, and I love how a lot of the physicians are open-minded about it, so they want to learn about it because it's helping so many people.
Mhm.
So it's something they can offer to their patients, whether it's cream or it's pellets or injections, whatever the case may be. um, if they can offer it and help, that's why they're there. That's why we choose the physician that we do, right? So
Exactly. And there's options.
there's options for everybody. Whatever they choose is great. I don't knock anything that people try. And if it helps you and you feel amazing, then you keep going. Like, don't change it. Don't ruin a good thing. I
Yeah,
talk to
and actually know the science. Don't just do a Google search. Speak with a specialist that knows the
right.
science. I always say don't Google search, menopause issues. Google search who helps with menopause issues, So get
Notebook with all of your questions and get all of your questions answered, and don't leave there until you understand what's happening and how, you know, they can help you.
yes,
I always,
knowledge is key.
knowledge is everything,
Yes. Yes.
and yeah. So yeah, it's just been a great thing. So I'm waiting to get my labs at the end of the month to see where I am. So I feel like I'm still feeling pretty good though. So the thing is for me, I don't know. They say that people with more muscle mass tend to hold on to their like testosterone a little bit longer than someone who not. And I can go 3.5, 4 months on just one little pellet.
Mhm.
So I feel lucky that I don't have to get repelleted all the time.
Yeah.
Um, because sometimes things happen with that where they, have a little boost and then they have like a little bit too much. So it's hard to keep that balance, but it's a
Yes.
learning curve for everybody and everyone's story is different. But I get labs all the time to see where I'm at, how I'm
Mhm.
feeling, if it's jive, like I keep a little calendar, to see like I'm feeling this way. Is it because of the hormones or I'm just having I'm working a lot this week and I'm just exhausted. Like I can't
Mhm.
on that. So I always solidify my feelings with labs. I always get my labs
Mhm.
drawn and
Yeah.
okay, I'm still good. So it's not my testosterone. And I always get my thyroid retested as well to make sure that my levels are good because that changed for me in a heartbeat.
Mhm.
Out of there.
Yeah.
I was out at the gym actually and I was started getting like hot flashes in my face. I thought I was having a heart attack or I was having like high blood pressure because I never had that before. And so I did go to my primary care and he said, "Hey, I mean, I know you're fit, but he said I really think I want to do an EKG on you." And so I'm like, "Sure, go ahead." So they 2 seconds in the office, they plug you in and he said he sent my labs off and I was hypothyroid because my every all my it controls all your organs
Mhm.
and so everything just was shutting down out of nowhere. So I kind of attribute that to like menopause as well because
Mhm.
it's as well. And so for some reason it just decided that my thyroid didn't want to function any longer. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Everything's connected. Yeah.
I was in the best shape of my life too, like ripped up, like, but I was eating great and everything. And I was like,
Same.
happening? Yeah,
Same,
crazy.
exactly the same. I at that time I was working at three different fitness studios. I was teaching all the time, and that felt great. And then just out of nowhere, it was just like I'm like, what is going on with my stomach? And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like, why am I feeling tired all the time? And so yeah, I felt that too. So before we head out, is there any last things that you'd like to leave the audience with? As far as like your story and your experience with menopause?
I just want the women out there to know and the men to know that there is hope. I always hope, 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 and that they have a voice and just keep going because you don't have to. I always say you don't have to roll over and die during menopause. It's not the end of your life. It's not the end of your world. And I'm the perfect example of that. So that's why I love to share because um, I just feel like they can trust me because I'm like that girl next door who's just sharing her story for I get nothing out of it other than to pay it forward to somebody else because I know I was in such a dark place and now look today. So I'm just
Mhm.
like I always say I'm the proof of the pudding.
Right.
uh, it's just been a great experience for me and I'm so glad that I'm not suffering anymore. That's all. So
Yes, yes. And I'm glad for you. And thank you for paying it forward and sharing your story because I always say you never know what person is going to touch, even if it touches one person and makes them understand that that's the whole point of what we do and what we should be doing in this world with each other.
but I say if I've touched one person or 1,000 or 1,000,000, I don't care. When I get my messages in the morning and I have so many messages in the queue, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and I want to get to them all right away. And I usually highlight those messages, and I do a live video and answer the question back or just thank them because
Mhm.
some women thank me and I'm like, listen, you're empowering me just as much and inspiring me to keep going. And that I
Mhm.
know that I started this crazy journey sharing it and I'm doing the right thing. And that just means the world to me. I have like goosebumps everywhere. It just makes
Yes.
me feel amazing. And you too, like you must live every day so thankful that you're helping so many people and how you go to bed at night and just feel amazing. Like
Yeah.
yeah, you're doing what you're meant to do.
Yeah. Like what for me, it's like the moment that I knew I was in the right place was I had one client that she was emotional, and I had never experienced someone like just come up because she called me and I could hear it in her voice and I'm like, what's going on? She's like, Tafik, you saved my life. And I'm like, what? You know what I mean? I'm like, she's like, you don't understand. She's like, I couldn't walk up and down the stairs. And she's like, now I'm running up the stairs. And, and she's like, and I thought that I was on my way out. And she's like, and now I feel like, I have many, many years left. And at that moment, I'm like, I'm doing the right thing. I
Yeah,
know that this
it
is what I'm supposed to do.
solidify it. When I get those messages, the first thing I do is check in the morning and I'm like, oh my gosh, I touched someone else. It makes my day. It
Mhm.
makes
Yes.
my it's like it's the best thing ever. I feel
Yeah.
blessed. Yeah, and thank you for doing what you do because yeah, it's a great thing. You're a great guy, and I was pleased that I was referred to you for to speak with you because it we have so much in common,
Yeah.
actually. Oh,
Yes.
you
Yes. Yeah,
totally.
it's interesting that you say that because a lot of the things that I'm seeing in the mainstream with them talking about menopause, men keep being left out of the conversation. And like you just said, I keep trying to remind people that we have so much more in common that
Yeah,
and I think the problem is we don't think you'll understand and you don't think that we'll understand. And so my thing is when you get that, then why would people even try to understand if you keep telling the other person that they wouldn't? And I'm like, even like for me, like I had hot flashes throughout when I had my, but no man talks about that. You know what I mean? And just like women don't talk about it to each other, men don't talk about andropause to each other. You know what I mean? So if we just open our mouths, it would just make the biggest difference.
what's happened, I think you're opening your mouth and I'm opening mine. And so now everyone's coming out of the woodwork going, oh my gosh, thank you. And then they speak and they tell their story and they're like, thank you so much. Like I've been feeling a woman just wrote to me yesterday and said, I've done more in the past 3 days than I've done in 3 years.
Mhm.
And
That's
she
awesome.
like, I'm so glad I found you and I found your videos because it gave me the
Mhm.
courage to actually make the call.
Yep.
And yeah, you got this. You're going to be okay. I just try and support them as best I can. So
Yep.
it's just amazing. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So it's great. It feels
Great. Yes. So thank you again for coming on, and I look forward to hearing all the comments about the segment and the show. And yeah, thank you so much.
yeah. Thank you. You have a wonderful day. Pleasure meeting you.
You too. Take care.